Hello guys, the moment has come and I've decided to dive into the world of Elden Ring. I'm familiar with Souls-like games, having completed the Dark Souls series multiple times, and last year I also finished Sekiro. You can find a video with my walkthrough and opinion about this game on my channel. Now it's time to take a look at Elden Ring. Is it the best Souls-like game ever, or just Dark Souls 4 with an open world? That's what we are going to find out today. Before we start, I want to mention that to form a comprehensive opinion about this game, I played it several times in different ways, exploring the full game and running through the main story. That's why you will see snippets from the various playthroughs, from the first look to the final opinion on the game. Grab a snack and enjoy. As usual, in FromSoft games, we start by choosing a character class. A vagabond. Looks like a homeless person, and since I'm not really an outdoorsy type, I can't choose this guy. Playing as a warrior like Aladdin doesn't interest me either, as he would have a genie, a monkey, and a flying carpet around him. I don't like any of that, so let's move on. Hero. What hero am I if my greatest deed is throwing out the trash from home, and I don't always succeed at that, so I'll skip. Bandit. It's clear that this class is associated with crime, and I'm an upright person, so no. Astrologer sounds more interesting, but I don't think analyzing the star map will help me defeat bosses. Prophet. Looks like some loser or slave, he even has a board hanging around his neck instead of a chain collar. Judging by the blindfold, he's blind, and I'm not ready to tackle Elden Ring with closed eyes yet. Well, this one doesn't need comments. Confessor, although stylish, is related to the church, and I have no connection to religion, so it's better not to get involved. A wretch. The title is promising, but he's naked, and it's winter now. I fear my character won't survive the adventure like that. Eventually, my choice stopped at the samurai. This class reminds me of NPCs from Sekiro, and I used to like those guys. Despite being dumb, they have fancy armor and katanas, so it fits me perfectly. After randomly pressing a few buttons, I created a character I liked, and now we are heading into the large and beautiful world of Elden Ring. But before that, we are shown a cutscene that explains how things work in this world. There was a ruler named Marica who governed these lands. Marica herself was immortal, but her children were not. They were demigods. One day a group of assassins killed her son, Godwin the Golden. He was her first son from her marriage to Godfrey, but there were others. In anger, Marica smashed the Elden Ring into pieces and disappeared for a while. As I understand it, the Elden Ring is a magical object that helps maintain the nature or order of things. However, because the ring was broken, many bad things happened in the world, and spirits became restless. After Marica's disappearance, her children tried to seize the shards of the Elden Ring because they granted power. Civil wars broke out among her children, but it led to nothing. Each of the demigods was strong. In the end, the lands of this world were divided into provinces, each ruled by one of Marica's children. I will tell you more about them when we meet them. For now, my samurai and I are embarking on a grand journey to overthrow all demigods and become the new ruler of these lands. So, I was thrown to the world of Elden Ring, where I immediately encountered a girl named Melenia. She will be our advisor throughout the game, helping us level up our stats, and we will also get a horse from her. Well, calling it a horse is too much. I'd rather call it a donkey, because this creature has caused me so many troubles. Melenia told us that she would help us to become the Elden Lord, but to do that, we need to reach the capital at the foot of the Earth Tree, a gigantic tree visible from almost everywhere on the map. Why we need to do this is still unclear, but there is no reason not to trust this girl for now, so off we go. By the way, Melenia herself is a relatively unknown and mysterious figure. We know very little about her. There are only community speculations about who she really is, but the game doesn't directly mention it anywhere. Now we are on our own, we can go wherever we want and do whatever we want. Since Elden Ring is an open world game, I went wherever my eyes led me and tried to pick fights with everything that moved. Obviously, I got punished for it. Overall, I enjoyed exploring the world, although there was a strange feeling of being lost in my first playthrough, because I had no idea what to do. The game has many dungeons, caves and other goals where you face a boss at the end. Was it interesting to go through these places in my first playthrough? Initially yes, but then I started noticing that most of them look similar, and the problem wasn't just that. Even the bosses in these locations occasionally repeat. You can encounter regular mobs with a boss health bar there, which was frustrating. Fortunately, not all the bots that they are bad. Sometimes you come across very interesting ones. So I think the idea of finding dungeons, caves and other goals in the game is good, but not that many. I believe that quality should be prioritized over quantity. After some time into my wanderings while resting at bonfire, Melenia approached me. She said that she was checking whether we were losers or not and decided that we were worthy, offered to teleport us to the Round Table. The Round Table is a place where others like us, the Tarnished, gather. There you can buy various items, spells, and upgrade your weapon, the blacksmith. With these folks, there are also some small side quests, but I can't say they are really interesting ones. It's time to continue the main story. I reached the entrance of the castle where I encountered Mr. Morgan the Fell Omen, and the Omen is indeed terrible, as it wasn't easy to defeat him in my first playthrough. It's not that he's difficult, just this boss has many attacks with delays. He often winds up his hand, seemingly indicating an impending attack, and anyone with some reaction will try to dodge immediately, but it doesn't work with him. You need to learn the delay of each attack, otherwise you will be constantly rolling like an idiot and taking all the damage. After memorizing the timing of most Margit's attacks and putting an end to the panic rolls, victory was achieved. The path to the castle opened, and speaking of the castles, they are really cool in this game. Each has its unique vibe, some creepy, some beautiful. Exploring them is enjoyable, partly because the room sizes here are not monstrous, immersing you better in the game. Also here and throughout the game you will encounter various characters, some willing to help us and others trying to steal from us, kill us or deceive us. It's cool. I was especially delighted when I saw Patches, a character similar to the one in the Dark Souls series. Also, in this castle we will see a very creepy room with several teams of people, all because Godric the Grafted rules this castle. He is the one of the Elden Ring shard holders and one of the Marica's children. This guy went crazy with the idea of augmentation, his force brought him corpses and he cut off their hands and sewing them onto himself. In general, a strange guy. As for the fight with him, it seemed even easier than with the previous boss to me. Godric also has attack with delays, but much fewer, and the second stage of the fight, where he cuts off his hand and replaces it with the head of the dragon, is very easy, because he often tries to spit fire. There is no problem in dodging these attacks by simply going behind him or even approaching him closely. That's how I defeated him. After that, a passage to a new location opened for me, and I can tell you that, as beautiful as the locations in this game are, they are equally unnecessarily big. During my journey, I grew tired of horse riding back and forth on a huge, semi-empty map while trying to reach the next boss castle. However, once I reached the new palace, I always left behind all the negative emotions about the exhausting trips that I was forced to experience before finding these castles. Welcome to Academy of Royal Career. This palace gave me a strong Hogwarts-like atmosphere. The place is very cool, with hidden rooms, passages and a bunch of hostile mages. Even parkour elements are present. Speaking of parkour, there is one tower in the game where you will need to engage in parkour to reach the boss. I died countless times here before I reached the bottom of the tower. Don't get me wrong, I love games like Dying Light for the possibility of jumping and climbing everywhere. However, I'm not sure how appropriate it was to add such elements to a game not originally designed for such activities. In general, everything was great in this academy except for the mini-boss I encountered in the lecture hall. Does it remind you of someone with this moveset? Not only did I see this boss many times throughout the game, both as a boss and a regular enemy, but he essentially possesses the same moveset as a boss from Dark Souls. Come on, that's not cool. There are many boss self-repeats in this game. The only thing that differentiates them is the elements they use for attacks. Fire, poison, etc., but no more changes. That's upsetting. Okay, after defeating the wolf, I headed to the boss of the location. Meet Rinawa, the Queen of the Full Moon. She's an important character because she's the mother of several Elden Ring shard holders. Once, she was married to Radagon. Radagon is one of the final bosses of the game and Marica's second husband, but let's not dwell on that now. Rinawa gave birth to several children from Radagon: Radan, Ricard, and Ronnie. However, when Marica broke up with Godric, Radagon found out, left Rinawa, took the children, and went to the capital, where he later married Marica. Rinawa fell into depression, and after some time she began to go insane. Using a magical egg that Radagon had gifted her, she started performing rebirth rituals, considered a great sin. Now it's time to stop her. The fight with her is quite interesting and beautiful. In the first stage, we have to stop her students who will try to keep Rinawa in the air using magic. We should disrupt their sorcery and the girl will fall, allowing us to deal to her damage. In the second stage, she will transport us to a stunning arena with water, moonlight and magic everywhere. Really cool. This is one of the visually most beautiful fights in my opinion. Besides constantly spamming spells, Rinawa will also summon spears. Sometimes a dragon, sometimes a giant, sometimes assassins, sometimes wolves. I hope you got the picture. After our victory over her, Rinawa won't die. She becomes friendly and offers her services for rebirth. This way you can redistribute all your character's skills and even change their appearance, which is very useful. After that, I decided to go to the lands belonging to the children of Rinawa and Radagon. The first one I decided to meet was Radan. His lands are infected with some kind of rot and inhabited by unpleasant aggressive creatures. Huge dogs, crows, bats, dragons and others. A festival is taking place in these lands now. Many warriors have gathered to confront General Radan. Before the battle begins, the organizer of this event tells us a bit about who Radan is. Once he was a great warrior, but after battle with Malania, where she infected him with rot, he started going crazy. Now he blindly kills everyone and devours the corpses of his enemies. He also has a loyal horse, which looks quite funny as the poor steed is very small compared to Radan's size. Thanks to the magic Radan's master, the horse can still carry its owner. As for the battle itself, I liked it. Very dynamic and epic. Numerous summoning points for the warriors who arrived at the festival to battle the general are added to the arena. Realizing it would be very challenging for me to fight him alone, especially in his second stage, I decided to use the summons and altogether we managed to defeat Radon. After our victory, stars began to fall from the sky. As it turns out, Radon was holding them back all this time to prevent various dangerous space creatures from entering this fort and destroying it. So, partly by killing Radon, I endangered all these lands. Well, let's move to Rania now. She's Renounced and Rodagon's second child and resides in her castle atop one of the towers. I was pleased that this girl is not hostile to me and offers to swear allegiance to her and help her. For Rania, we need to go to the underground city of Nokron and find the artifact she needs. But we won't be helping her alone. The witch introduces us to her assistants, the half-wolf Wade. He did participate in a fight with the General Radon alongside us. The unpleasant mage Solovis, who made a bad impression on our first meeting, and the giant Iji, a good friend who acts as a blacksmith and can share some more information about the game's lore. As Rania requested, I headed to Nokron. The place is breathtaking, an enormous underground starry city. There are some interesting mini-bosses in this area, for example a mimic that completely copies our character when we enter the arena, and the spirit of an ancient moose, the fight with whom is simple but enjoyable. After finding the necessary artifact, I returned to Rania and handed it over. She thanked me and disappeared. The next time I met the girl was in another location, deep underground where various space monsters dwell. Rania asked me to deal with them and I happily did so. Like this, I unlocked one of the endings of the game. The last, third child from the union of Renau and Rodagon was Ricard. To reach him, I had to go through the entire quest. This body resides deep under the volcano Manor, and there are 3 ways to get there. I chose the fastest one by helping a girl whose medallion was stolen. In gratitude, she teleported me to the volcano estate. People who reside here oppose the usual order of these lands and kill other tarnished like us. Tanit is a girl who currently manages the estate and is devoted to Ricard. She will give us different assassination orders, and after completing several of them, we will be allowed to meet Ricard. I accomplished her tasks and earned the opportunity to see the owner of the Elden Ring shard. Reaching Ricard's arena, I found their Serpent Hunter sword, suggested by the game for defeating the boss. It reminded me of the battle with the giant Yorm, where there was also a weapon in the arena to make the boss fight easier. Now let me tell you a little bit about Ricard. During the fight for the land against other Marica's children, Ricard encountered the mortal Great Serpent. To become strong and gain immortality, he fed himself and the fragment of his ring to the serpent. Since then they became one, but Ricard lost himself, causing many of his followers to leave him. As for the battle with him, the first phase is relatively simple. You need to occasionally dodge his easy predictable attacks. However, the second phase becomes more challenging as Ricard constantly casts spells covering the large part of the arena with lava, making the battle more difficult and annoying. Nevertheless, the boss isn't too hard. You can beat him in a couple of attempts. After the victory, Tanit appears, attempting to consume Ricard's body, to be forever inseparable from him. Thinking she had gone completely crazy, out of mercy, I killed her. Now it's time to head to the capital. Wendell instantly struck me with its beauty. As far as I can remember, it's the best city among all the Souls-like games I've seen. Walking through the streets, you feel the grandeur, with big roots entwining the castle and a fallen dragon in the city center. All of this makes my soul sing. There are no words, just emotions. Climbing up through the roots, I encountered a projection of Godfrey. Not the actual Godfrey, Marica's first husband, but a weaker version. So I won't talk about him for now, but later when the time comes. I quickly dealt with him and went to the very top of the city. There I met Morgoth, yes, the same one I fought at the beginning of the game. Back then he introduced himself as a Margit, but at the start of the game he was just a projection, working the same as Godfrey's, who we had just fought. I never understood why Morgoth took another name to protect a different castle from us at the game's beginning, so if anyone knows, explain it please in the comments. Now he claims that all his brothers and sisters are traitors and only he is worthy of becoming king. And in some way, I agree with him. In fact, each of Marica's children either went mad, transformed into something else, or simply left the kingdom and engaged in some random weird activity. Morgoth is the only one left to defend these lands, and now we're gonna see all his power. The battle with him is exciting, and though I've seen some of his moves before when we fought at the beginning of the game, now there are more, and Morgoth has become much more aggressive. There is almost no time for counterattack. This guy gives pressure constantly. The dance with him took a long time, but I really enjoyed it. I think he's one of the most interesting bosses in this game. After defeating him, I headed straight to the air tree, but my path was blocked by some spikes, indicating that the game was not yet over for me, and I could enjoy it for another 10 hours or so. I wasn't against this, but first I decided to take a break and relax by the bonfire. While I was sitting there and resting, Melenia appeared. She said that now we needed to go to the Giant's Peak, and there she knows the way to burn this great tree. Otherwise, there is no way to enter it. To get there, I needed to use the grunt lift and the medallion she gave me. Heading upstairs, I found myself on the snowy peaks. The place is intriguing with enormous frozen giants and the chains of the same size. It's in these locations that we find the forge we need, guarded by one of the few remaining giants in this world. He's here under Marica's orders, tasked with guarding the forge until it extinguishes. The boss, while looking impressive, provides us with rather a dull fight. We need to circle around him and focus on his legs. Due to significant size difference, half of his attacks are not visible, and he also likes to roll away from us time to time. So, the battle was long and not very enjoyable. I would say it's one of the worst, comparing to other main quest boss fights in this game. In the second stage, this hefty fellow amputates his leg and, while on his knees, starts casting various fiery spells towards us. In general, it's not too challenging, the main thing is not to prolong the fight. Otherwise, you might fall victim to his random attack, die, and have to repeat the leg tickle procedure, which is quite a torture. After the victory, passage to the Giant's Forge open up. Here, one needs to rest in the bonfire and Melenia will show up. She will ask us if we are ready to commit an unforgivable sin. I chuckled at this because committing sins is my daily routine, so I was interested in how she could surprise me now. Oh, okay, she did make it. The girl sets herself on fire, simultaneously igniting the air tree. Someone might feel sad at this point, but I didn't care. Throughout my journey, I've seen this lady about 10 times, and none of those moments were truly memorable. After burning the tree, my character was teleported to such a location. The place is quite beautiful, inhabited by dragons, and features rather unpleasant game bosses. Here, we need to obtain a very important artifact, the Rune of Death. It's guarded by such a body, but before meeting him, the game offers us, depending on the level of your skill and luck, quite a painful challenge. Those who have played Dark Souls before probably remember this unpleasant duo that made a considerable number of players nervous. Memories of them still linger uncomfortably in my soul, so as some sick reminder, From Software decided to add a similar boss fight here. These two assholes will constantly corner you, leaving little opportunity to exchange damage. By miracle, you need to divert them one by one, and only then you can inflict at least some amount of damage. But it's not simple, as they can easily close the distance and also have ranged attacks. Pretty cool, ain't it? But the worst part is not even that. The battle doesn't end with their death, only when the overall health bar is depleted, which is very strange. You kill one or maybe even both of them, but they resurrect again.
Hello, motherfucker.
Besides, this arena is awful, with a bunch of columns that fuck up the target lock from time to time. Well, it's just a nightmare. After miraculously outplaying these two, another challenge awaited me. Meet Marica. According to the lore, he is Marica's stepbrother. Once upon a time, she gave him the Rune of Death and asked him to guard it, all to protect her children from death, since they didn't possess immortality. Everything was fine until one day. A group of assassins calling themselves the Black Knives stole a piece of this rune and killed Godwin the Golden, the same first son of Marica and Godfrey with it. Due to this, Marica became upset and broke the Elden Ring, and you already know what happened after. Feeling guilty, Marica infused his flesh into the blade. This was made to get stronger and ensures that no one else would attempt to steal the artifact again. The fight with him is actually quite good. The first phase is relatively simple, dodging attacks is easy and exchanging damages as well. But in the second phase, he becomes very agile, inflicting a massive amount of damage. All hits landed on you will continue to burn your health bar for a while. Was it hard to beat him? Yes. Did I like it? I believe so. Cool, dynamic, everything as it should be. After the boss's death, I obtained the Rune of Death, and the off-screen narrator informed us that the end had come to these lands, and we would soon become their over Elden. Returning to the once beautiful capital, we see that it's buried under the thick layer of ash, covering the city after the burning of the Earth Tree. The once majestic city now looks quite disheartening, and we only have to face two bosses before the end of our journey. But before finishing the game, I decided to visit several more places and engage in a deadly dance with a couple of Marica's remaining children. One of her children is Mog, the Blood Lord. He's the brother of Morgoth, who we recently fought in the capital. We can find this guy in one of the secret locations, which can be accessed in several ways. I found a portal in the Snowy Lands and used it to enter his domain. According to the game's lore, Mog was once expelled from the lands belonging to his family, so he decided to create his own kingdom. For this and other purposes, he kidnapped Michaela. Look, Queen Marica had twin children, Michaela and Malenia, and they had their own defects. Malenia was afflicted with the scarlet rot, causing her to literally rot from within. This is why she wears golden prosthetics that save her from death. Michaela couldn't grow and was forever trapped in the body of an infant, but as far as I know, he was very intelligent. The boy wanted to help his sister and save her from decay, as well as cure himself his ailment. To do this, he merged with the sacred tree, but Michaela's plans weren't destined to come true. One day, Mog tore the boy from the tree, took him to his realm, and began experimenting on him. What is interesting is that in the cutscene before the battle, we can see part of Michaela's body, which is quite large, suggesting that he somehow partially overcame his ailment and managed to grow. Now we have to defeat Mog, and the battle with him is quite an experience. He flies around the arena, inflicts bleeding with his attacks, and his transition to the second phase is a nightmare. Mog hits the sky with his trident, taking our health and healing himself, while also staggering us, making it difficult to attack him at this moment. This can be countered, but I was too lazy to look for a special item which needs to be added to your flask and drunk at the moment when the transition to the second phase is taking place. The arena during the battle will also be covered in fire, which will be annoying, but the fire were always epic and full of action, so I enjoyed it. Now it's time to visit Malania. The girl also resides in a hidden location, which is not so easy to access. You need to find 2 houses of a medallion to take the elevator, go through the blizzard, pass the Evergo, and only then you will be allowed to enter the hidden location where the girl beneath resides. As for this place, it's stunning, but right at the entrance, ordinary ants showed me that nothing but death awaits me here. Still, I didn't give up and moved on. I wandered through the beautiful castle, crossed the rotten swamp, descended into the abyss, and there, at the very bottom, I finally found my love. Despite the scarlet rot affecting the girl's body, Melenia still managed to become a skilled warrior. After meeting her, I faced 4 evenings of agony. I can't say how many times I died here, but her phrase,
I am Malania, Blade of Mikola,
will haunt even my dreams for a long time. What is the difficulty of this boss? Well, the first phrase is not difficult. You can memorize most of her attacks and dodge them. If you don't expose yourself to her strikes, she won't be able to heal. And yes, she does it with every hit on you. But the second phrase, when she sheds her armor and grows wings, is a dog shit. Just look at this sick attack. I don't know. For me, it's unclear how to dodge it, and it is an incredible amount of damage. After some time, I learned to intuitively avoid at least half of the damage, but what also saved me is that I was upgrading my HP hard enough throughout the game, and if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have survived. Someone will say that I have no skill, I'm noob, and they could kill her on their first try. Well done, what can I say to you? I'm an ordinary player for average skill, and I was destroyed. Overall, I believe that Malenia wouldn't be such a challenging boss if it weren't for just one this attack, because 80% of my deaths were caused only by it. As for me, the fight with Odishin, whom I hate so much, is more fair because it's all about memorizing attacks and understanding timings. Here, you need to be a genius to figure out how not to get damage from this combo without guides. I believe that as beautiful as Malenia is, she's equally terrifying. I can't add anything more. 4 evenings, that's exactly how much time I was her personal toilet. Did I feel my superiority after the long-awaited victory over her? No, I was just glad that this feeling of endless pain was over. Okay, Malenia is defeated and 2 bosses left. Being in the capital, I received positive feedback about the upcoming fight from experienced fellows, and went to see who had caused such terror to other players. Meet Godfrey, the first ruler of Elden, and Marica's first husband in person. He's also the father of Godwin, Mok, and Morgoth, in case you forgot. Godfrey's real name is Horalux, and he was a formidable warrior before, and even participated in a battle against giants a long time ago. When all the battles were won and he came back to the capital, the fire in his eyes went out, and he became the first Tarnished. Marica then banished him, and since then he wandered somewhere, but now he's back to also get the Elden Ring. Talking about the fight with him, we're already familiar with part of his moveset from the battle with his illusion, but back then we saw less than half of all of his attacks. The first phrase is not very difficult, but when he transforms into his true form, Horalux, that's when the fun begins. The boss starts to use dangerous attacks, especially when he runs at you and tries to grab you. If he succeeds, you can immediately start to restart the game, because if you don't have enough large health bar, it's an instant death. Sometimes he also starts spamming the same attacks, making it difficult to approach him, but overall, it's a very enjoyable fight. Now onto the final boss, Marica, or rather Radagon. In general, everything is complicated. Radagon is a male continuation of Marica. It's like one person and not at the same time. That's why when I talked about Radagon and Renault's children, I still called them Marica's descendants. How the male entity is separated from Marica is unclear, but what I've noticed while editing this video is that the hint about it is given in the very first cutscene at the beginning of the game, when Marica being tilted breaks Elden Ring, and there, for a moment, we see her turning into Radagon. Also, as you may remember, Radagon was married to Marica, and they even had children, the twins Mikael and Malenia. Apparently, because Radagon and Marica are continuations of each other, the children were born with diseases. As for the fight with the Radagon, there is nothing special or difficult. All attacks are easily predictable and can be dodged easily. After defeating him as the second phase, a creature called the Alen Beast emerges from his body. This creature is very ancient, and its main task is to maintain a certain order in these lands. The battle with it turned out to be quite beautiful but drawn out, partly because the Elden Beast prefers to keep distance, so half of the battle was just chasing it. The difficulty of the boss lies precisely in the fact that it's better to close the distance with it, otherwise Beast will constantly spam its attacks. But at the same time, being close to it, it's not very convenient due to the significant difference in our sizes. I literally couldn't see half of its attacks because of the giant body of the beast. In general, fight will do it, but I would like to see something more interesting, as it's the final boss of the game. After the victory, depending on what we did and who whose quests pass throughout the game, there will be several endings to choose from. I will show mine as I think it's canonical. I attached Marica's head to her body, and inside her a light and a pattern appeared, symbolizing order. In other words, everything became normal again, we became the rule of Elden, and our story, as well as all the events we are talking about today, will be recorded in the history as the Age of Fracture. Credits. Now let's summarize and talk about this game in general. I can say that I really enjoyed all the content related to the main storyline of the game, especially the bosses. They're unique and memorable. However, everything considered additional content is debatable for me. I can't definitely say that I liked everything, but I also can't say that it was bad. For instance, if you look at a large open world with many additional bosses, what could be bad about that? There are many bosses, but almost all of them repeat. Not just once or twice, but 3 times and more. Imagine, there are about 200 bosses in the game, but no more than 50 of them are unique. The same goes for various dungeons, caves and everghosts. There are a lot of them, and only 20% are interesting, unusual and different from others, while the rest are just junk. I felt that it was a waste of time walking and clearing the map even on my first playthrough, but on the second I forced myself to do it, because I wanted to know for sure if all these side activities were truly bad or if it was just a bad first impression. Now I can definitely say, yes, in such quantities they are not needed. It's better to have fewer but higher quality, in my opinion. Overall, the world could have been made smaller, so you don't have to spend half an hour searching for something interesting. There is a lot of content in the game, even more than Dark Souls series, but because the world has become much larger, all these activities were spread across it, and as a result we have a lot of beautiful but semi-empty locations. Because of this, it occasionally feels like not enough content was added, even though that's not the case. Talking about good changes compared to the Dark Souls series games, I like the changes to the combat system. And what made me happy like a child was the addition of a normal jump on a separate button and adding more bonfires called arenas with bosses. So we now need to waste extra several minutes just for a run to start the fight over. For this, I bow low to the developers. Thank you. It was also great that now it's easy to change the weapon buff at any bonfire, various summoning phantoms were added, and in general the game became more friendly to new players. It remains challenging, but those who have never played this genre can also enjoy it, reducing their suffering with these very phantoms that make the game much easier. But for those who want to test their nerves, skill and keyboard durability, there is also the option not to use all these gameplay enhancing additions. So, as a short conclusion to everything I've already said, the game is good, but there are many buts. What do you think about Elden Ring? Does it deserve the award of the best game of 2022? Share your thoughts in the comments and see you soon. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video.